and welcome everyone to my bed. Haha. Yes, I couldn't actually be bothered to go upstairs, mainly because my house gets absolutely freezing cold, but I'm very lucky with my bedroom because it always seems to stay nice and cozy and warm. So I'm afraid this is where we're going to stay today when I talk about my history with braiding, which actually begins with my mum. She actually, she's always had short hair, so she never learnt on herself. So I asked her the other day, I was like, where did you learn? She said, oh, just from some of the other mums, because she had three daughters and was like, oh, I've got to do something with their hair for school. So it was always pretty much a French braid, which I was more than happy to learn. But now when I go to events, that's what I love to ask everyone else, where did you learn? Or, was it through someone else or did you teach yourself? And a lot of them said YouTube videos. And I thought, oh, that's such a great idea because they have some brilliant tutorials. However, obviously when I was younger, that's showing my age now, we didn't have YouTube. So I was very lucky that my mum braided, but where I learned to do just a normal 3-strand braid was actually from my father. So he used to be a jockey and would obviously not only braid the manes of the horses, but he also owned a saddlery shop and he did a lot of leather work, which had the patterns of braiding in. So that was great for me to practice. And I also practiced on some, not the large horses, but like the little Shetland ponies. Anything bigger, and I don't think I would have quite have been able to reach the top. So again, that was great practice because they didn't move. And they were really calm. In fact, some of the Shetland ponies were far better customers than some of the children at the events I do. But anyway, so as I said, my father had this shop. I can't exactly remember when, but I thought I'd ask him and see if he had any old pictures or photos. And he had a newspaper clipping of the shop. And I didn't even know that this even existed. I obviously won't read the entire article, but I'll put it up here. Obviously, I phased out his name. So, jockey who is making his name as village saddler. On frosty mornings when most people are still abed, Elam Saddler is up and off for the first job of the day. Saddlery behind the village square opens for business at 9 a.m, but his day starts much earlier, and that continues today. He's always up at the crack of dawn. As an amateur jockey, he rides out 3 mornings a week, returning after exercise to concentrate on selling the equipment he has been using on horses. And in this picture, you'll see that that's actually a lady on the horse that's coming to say hello. And I know her, we all do, all of the sisters, because we used to play in her garden, and she only ever lived just round the corner. She also had, I want to say sleigh rides. I think it was around Christmas time, but it looked like a sleigh ride, and she usually had just one horse that would pull it. And that used to be the most exciting thing to do. And she would always have like a little rug to put over us and keep us nice and warm. But being taken through the whole village by a horse was the best thing ever when I was little. So on a lot of the places that he used to work, we would always be running around the stables. And maybe it was the blonde hair and blue eyes, but everyone would always go, are you the daughter of? And we were like, yeah, we are. And I liked the fact that Dad always took us along to work, really. It made it a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. So we sort of grew up on paddocks or race courses, and it's great memories that we've got. We really do. And we always loved going around to see the strangest names that we could find. And there was one horse that was called Pavlova. In fact, I think it was my sister's favourite horse. And yeah, we bonded quite well with a lot of the horses there. I think Dad perhaps maybe wanted us to carry on riding until we were older. But at the age of 10, I fell off and broke my wrist. And that was the end of that, unfortunately. The trust there had slightly been broken, but that's another story for another day. I mainly then wanted to talk to my dad about, his memories. I was like, do you remember the braiding and everything? And he did. So I'm just going to put a little clip here.
Why? And your mum was very good at doing all the accounts and ordering and everything. She was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
she's always been amazing at that. I definitely didn't pick that up from her, unfortunately. But I was talking to the girls, and they always remember walking around the shops and seeing you doing all the leather work. And I remember specifically seeing you doing some braids on, just a 3-strand braid, and that's when I thought, what a good way to start learning. And then it was
Yeah,
when we were around some of the Shetland ponies. I don't know where. It might have been at Sarah's actually. That I
yeah.
started practicing my 3-strand braid. I couldn't do any other horses because they were too tall for me.
Right. We used to have to plait the mains before when they went racing. We were doing all
Oh,
the
because
mains
I
at
thought it was
home.
just for those like the prestigious shows, but did it help with racing as well?
Oh, we did it racing. Yeah, yeah. You used to, not so much now, but they still do them.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
in all those, all down the neck sort of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I've just been looking up all the different techniques. I mean, they look absolutely beautiful, but I mean, gosh,
Oh,
time
yeah.
consuming. It must have taken a while.
When you folded it down, obviously it was long. Then you folded it in two. Then you put a bit of stuff around it.
Yes.
Elastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so they look like
yeah,
little
yeah.
knots, don't they?
Yeah. As soon as the jockey got on, he pulled three or four apart because he used to like to hold on to the with his,
Oh, I
onto the
see.
mane.
That's quite a good idea. Extra support to hold on to. Brilliant. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I then wanted to find out what was the history of horse braiding? Like, where did that come from? And apparently, it's been going for hundreds of years. But at the very beginning, it was a very practical manner. It was more braiding the hair in order to get it out of the way so that it didn't get tangled in things like horse equipment or farming equipment. Apart from this picture that I found, where clearly the owner didn't really do it for practical reasons, and maybe he was going to take the horse to a competition or something, because that would have got tangled in everything. Because especially when it gets really, really long, trying to brush out trying to brush out those tangles take a very long time. I do remember Dad used to give me, I think it was a small little brush, and you put it between your fingers and you just slowly go all the way through, but it did take a long, long time. Throughout the years, like most other things, it became sort of more popular, and then it was almost like a kind of fashion statement. And the more your horse was dressed up and looking beautiful, the more prestigious it was. It also meant that it was probably a higher ranking horse that wouldn't be used for like hunts or battle. Oh, yeah, this was quite interesting. Apparently, well, rumour has it, if you ever saw a single braid in the mane of your horse and you didn't put it there, it meant that your horse had been marked by thieves. So basically, it just meant that maybe a couple of days later, when the thief came back, it knew which horse it wanted to steal. I don't know why they couldn't steal it on the spot. But anyway, I'm guessing as this grew more popular and people knew about it, then surely they'd just go to their horse and undo the braid. But hey ho, maybe that wasn't actually true. But it's quite interesting. Now we're going to go on to a little bit of folklore, because we all like a little bit of folklore, at least I do. So apparently, the tradition of braiding came from fairies. It's said that they loved horses so much that they would come into the middle of the night and they would tie little knots called elf knots in order to use it as a kind of stirrup to ride the horses around at night time. Believe that if you want to. I think it sounds quite interesting, and all I'm picturing is this teeny tiny fairy on this great massive horse. There was also another technique when I was getting older that I really wanted to learn, and that was cornrows, which are the small thin braids. And I had these in my hair, I don't know, since the age of about 11 or 12. And I was very lucky because it was my cousin who taught me. So she's half Malay, and her two sons, well, their father was from Barbados. So they've got beautiful, beautiful curly afro hair. And it was actually her sister in law who came up to her and said, okay, your boys have got afro hair, you have to learn to braid, basically. I won't go too much into that because that's going to be the next video that I do, because that also touches on cultural appropriation, which is so interesting because none of us really knew what that was when we were little, having our hair braided. So I interview my cousins, and it's quite an interesting conversation. But anyway, so that is my short history on hair braiding. I went and looked on the internet because I wanted to find out all the different techniques. One of them is a sew-in braid, which I think would be slightly terrifying, having a needle near a horse. I just think, what if the horse bucks or it gets scared or something and this needle just goes straight through? So that one looked a bit scary. But the others are quite interesting. You've got like a waterfall braid, which you do on a normal human being, and the technique's exactly the same. And I'll put some pictures up here. These are the knots. So basically you just braid the hair and then you kind of roll it up, and with elastic bands, that's how you create the knot. And as you can see here, especially for the show jumping, it looks so beautiful. For the show jumping, again, that is more of a fashion statement, you know, and you want to show off your horse. You want to show off their beautiful long neck as well. And so, I mean, you can go crazy. I saw some patterns like this, which I was thought, wow, that is pretty cool. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that very short little video. As I said, my hair history part 2 will be in a couple of weeks' time. So I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and I will see you then.